Sorry. Sometimes.
I can't even edit this. Right.
Okay.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, Susan.
Hi there. Welcome and thanks for agreeing to give up some of your time today. So everybody who's watching, Leo is currently building his own online digital company within the SFM, and he's shown steady, sustainable growth since he's launched towards the end of last year. I really don't want to say too much to you about Leo at this stage because he'll tell his own story far better than I ever could. What I would like to say is that we connected in a challenge fairly early on in our journeys back in the summer. And if you want the truth, I fell madly in love with the view behind Leo. And thank God he laughed when I told him and he wasn't offended. So since that day, Leo has been a sounding board, a mentor, a tormentor, and so much more. And Leo and his beautiful wife, Peggy, will be lifelong friends. So I am truly grateful to have you and to welcome you onto this chat, and that you've agreed to come and share some of your wisdom and your knowledge with some of my prospective members. So thank you for that. So can you just kind of start us off, Leo? Tell me a wee bit about how you came to find SFM, or would you say SFM found you?
Wow, a little bit of both, to be honest. Thank you so much for such an amazing welcome. Really, you're a tormentor, really, Susan?
Absolutely.
What's amazing, we haven't met because of COVID and lockdown, and you know, we just make these amazing relationships in the SFM. It's more than just coming in and learning digital skills. So I feel very blessed, and we are lifelong friends, and the meeting in person, it's not an if, it's a when. It will happen. I guess the background you're alluding to, not so much here. I Susan with pardon me, video. I do campaigns from the beach. I live in Grand Cayman in the Caribbean. We're blessed with very nice beaches here. UK is just coming out of winter, so yeah, I regularly torment Susan with me in the beach. So I apologize. It's funny you say, how did I find SFM and how did it find me? A bit of both. I was actively looking for quite a while to find an alternative to what I was doing in my lifestyle. I won't bore you with the details, but I worked in corporate for quite a few years with a cruise line. Actually, in my mid-20s, I had this dream to travel the world. I started working with a cruise line, thought I'd do it for a year, built up this career in the 20 years that led me into the corporate world with the cruise line. Absolutely loved what I did, got to travel the world, but the last 3 to 4 years in that environment, I was moving up career-wise, but the quality of my life was going down. And it got to the point where I felt that if I did it for too much longer, I'd end up being a workaholic, not by choice. I work to live, not live to work. Generally, that's my mindset. So I made the tough decision at 20 years, something I absolutely still love doing, to walk away from it. And when I did that, I moved down to Grand Cayman. And I started working with thinking that would be the answer to the next part of my life. And much as I adore the brand, I've always been a big fan of the Ritz-Carlton brand because it's at a really, really high level. It was literally like stepping back into what I'd walked away from not too long before that. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me. And I was just doggedly determined that I wasn't going to get into something that I wasn't passionate about doing and that didn't give me the quality of life. And when I talk about quality of life, I'm not just talking about financial. I did walk away from a 6-figure salary. So at a minimum, my entry into the online world had to at least match that in the long term. But it was also the quality of life to have time to do the things that I love to do, to spend time with the people that matter most in my life, and basically to do it on my terms. And I was on a 4-year quest to find that since I left the cruise ships. I left the Ritz-Carlton because I knew it wasn't sustainable for me. And that was a difficult thing to do because I didn't know really what the next steps were going to look like. I did get involved in sales down here for about a year and a half. I liked it, but I didn't love it. It paid the bills, but I absolutely did not have a passion for it. It was more the same that, working to deadlines, the phone ringing at nighttime. I used to get anxious on a Sunday evening because I'd have to turn the phone back on. I'd have like 20 emails I'd have to answer and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't working for me. By default, through COVID in July 2020, I lost my job. The company had to downsize. I was the last person in. And at age then 52, first time in my life, I was out of a job. Within a matter of 2 weeks, I was hustling to try and figure out what the next steps were going to be. So it was a stressful time. At that same time, and I'd been actively searching online. I was interested to learn about the online world, but everything I came across, I wasn't convinced that it was a good fit. People had possibly had bad experiences. And at around the same time, I came across the SFM, and it did spark my interest, but I was skeptical. I spent a couple of weeks researching it. And I got to a point where I felt this is the space that I need to be in, because it was more than just learning a few videos and go out and making a fortune in the online world. That didn't interest me because we've all seen that, right? It's not sustainable. So I felt that this was where I wanted to be. So I said, I'm going to give it 6 months to really commit to learning the skills. And essentially that's what it was. I started that on August 1st, launched our company. I say our company because my beautiful wife, Peggy, was a great support and help throughout. We launched in mid-October. Didn't plan on it getting much traction until the end of December into January. Completely wrong. I mean, the online space right now, it was busy before COVID, growing. Now it's just exploded. So within a matter of days, we started generating revenue. I mean, we generated revenue in October. We obviously plowed that back into the company. November was 3 times the revenue of October. December beat November, and here we are in March. February was our strongest month. So this does work, but it is, it's a case of finding where can you learn these digital skills. I'm so fortunate and blessed that this was my first entry into online world, because I know there are people that have tried different things in the online world and it didn't work out, and that can put you off big time. I didn't have that, and once I made that commitment to join, I knew within days, and the expression that I used to tell people was that I found my new home. It's right here. It's right here, and that's stronger now than it was when I joined on August 1st. So that was my journey in.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And I think you've touched on, this throughout what you've been saying there, but just to kind of hone in on the point, how do you think what you're doing now differs from what we would call a traditional job? Leo, what would you say is the difference?
For me, it's how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really learned a lot about being in touch with my feelings starting in this journey. And I'm not a wishy-washy, overly spiritual guy, but I've noticed how it's changed me so much since I started this journey, because I figured for a long time that we spend most of our waking life working. So for me, it was always important to really enjoy what you're doing. If you don't, you need to find something else to do, because life is precious and, all those things. And we know that, but it's hard. It can be hard sometimes, because when you get used to doing something, then there's a fear of changing to do something else. So for me, it was in realizing that this was the place that was going to give me back my life, where I wasn't going to be trading my time for money anymore. I was getting it to do on my terms. I spoke about little few minutes ago about how I'd feel on a Sunday evening when I had to turn on that work phone again. I don't feel that anymore. I generally, and Susan will attest to this because we message each other a lot, I'll generally be up at 4:30, 5 in the morning, I'm working on my business because I want to be. It's like, it's a whole different mindset. I don't have to do that. I could start at 8 or 9. But I get to do it on my terms. So I like to start early. I guarantee you by 1:30 every day, I'm closed for the day. I close my laptop down. I go out and do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, he goes to the beach, don't you, Leo?
On occasion, I might stop by the beach, take a picture or two and send it to Susan just to different way of doing it. You know, and I have this thing now, and I don't get joy out of it because I don't feel it's appropriate to do that. But the way that I time myself now, so I used to be stuck in traffic here. We do have traffic, even though it's an island here. And we would leave at 7:15 every morning. We still do, because if you leave at 7:30, you're going to be bumper to bumper to bumper. And we do still leave because I drop Peggy into work in the morning. But then, and it's just how my days are different. I would have typically dropped Peggy to work. Then I was flying into my own job to be in there for 7:40, and then stuck in traffic coming home. What a lot of you probably experience, right? I don't have to do that anymore. I do drop Peggy into work. But then it's just how my days are now. I'll typically jump in the ocean for a swim. I'll come back, drive home to jump onto my laptop at about 8:30 again. On that drive home, I'm going that way, and I'm one of a handful of cars. And the other cars, which are bumper to bumper, are coming that way. And I started this 7 months ago. That still stops me in my tracks of just how much my life has changed by making that one decision to be brave, to lean in, and to get in and learn if this was for me. And I never look back. And it's sometimes making that one decision can make all these changes in your life. A huge thing for us is travel. You know, we find we're very happy people. We're glass half full. We love life. We are at our happiest when we travel. It's just how we are. You know, we love to go to New York and Ireland and Peru and different places, but there's never enough time. You know, we will save up for those 3 weeks a year of travel if we're lucky. And then we've come back to, 300 emails to try and catch up on everything. We don't have to do that anymore. And I mean, this company will get to a point where we're going to bring Peggy out of it, and it will be both of us running the company. We have other business plans in the online world. But when things continue to improve, we're planning to travel a lot more because we can take this business on the road. So we're actually planning in August for 10 weeks. We're going to travel between Ireland, Peru. Hopefully we can jump into a Mediterranean cruise. We can still run a company doing that. So it gives you back the control to do things in your life that you thought was only a dream. And if you're willing to move beyond that being a dream, to invest some time in yourself, you can make that dream a reality. And it's a choice thing. And that's where the decision needs to come. And for anyone watching this, I mean, you're most probably receiving this because at some point you saw a video of Susan talking about this online world, you connected with it, and something resonated that you wanted to make that change. You know, you entered your name and email, you started receiving the free video series with Stuart. So there's something you're still on the fence with, that you haven't taken that next step. Let me just assure you, I'm in that community. Susan's in that community. There's so many other people in there making that massive change to our lives. It doesn't get handed to you. You need to put in the work. It's a new skill set that you're going to learn. But if you can make that shift to being, I'm not so sure, to saying, I'm going to try this. Nothing to lose. There's literally nothing to lose. That's when your world starts changing, and it does. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's actually so much better, I think, than any of us could ever have imagined when we first joined. And on that, would you say you've had, any surprises along the way, and any kind of really steep learning curves that you weren't expecting when you set up your company?
I think just the mere fact that you're entering into a new skill set, much less setting up your own business, that in itself is going to be a steep learning curve. And I think that's important to know. This was, and it actually attracted me to it. It was never presented to me, join this place, watch a few videos and go out and make yourself rich in the world. Really? That was never going to entice me in.
Wave the magic wand.
It's not sustainable, right? And I like that from the get-go, this never pretended to be that. It said, if you have a desire to make radical change in your life and you're willing to put in the work to learn the digital skill sets, we will teach you everything you need to know to make that a reality. And for me, that was a steep learning curve. I mean, I was 52 when I entered. I'm turned 53 now. I didn't feel I thought it was for the younger people, first of all. I thought it was way past that being an option for me. I thought that I wasn't clever enough, that I didn't have the computer skills. I didn't have any background in online marketing, much less, I didn't even know what affiliate marketing and e-commerce. I knew they were a thing, but I didn't know about them. Any one of those things and 100 things more could have stopped me in my tracks. The expense of it. I lost my job a month before I decided this is the space that I'm going to be in. To me, there was no turning back. And I found a way. I mean, it doesn't get much harder than that to figure out how you're going to invest in yourself. Not having a job is probably one of the hardest ways to get over that. We found a way. We made it happen. So there's any number of things. If you're still on the fence, there's something there that's holding you back. Maybe it's fear of failure, which is big in our worlds. And I think as we get older, that becomes bigger because, we've been judged a few times in our lives and we kind of take a few knocks with that. Sometimes fear of success is like, I'm terrified that could be real and what that looks like. There's any number of things can hold you back, but I guess in wrapping this question up, it will be saying, whatever you felt that brought you in to when you saw Susan's video, to click and put your name in the email, there was something in you that was looking for change in your life. And if you're still on the fence, that something is still there. If it's been 2 weeks, so it's been 2 months have passed since you did that, but you have not taken action, you have the opportunity to make every day one step closer to achieving your goal. And that's what happens when you start the journey. The learning curve, it's steep because you're learning new things. But what I quickly learned was that every day that I show up and learn, it's bringing me one step closer to the place that I want to be. And in hindsight, it didn't take too long. I took it nice and slowly. The training modules are comprehensive. It'll teach you everything you need to know. I took 7 weeks doing that. You could take 2 weeks, you could take 4 weeks, you could take 2 months. You get to do it at your own pace and in a way that works for you. I mean, 2 months to launch your own company. Any bricks and mortar business, forget about it. 2 months and for a tiny investment, you wouldn't have anything like that in the traditional bricks and mortar world that you'd be able to do it. So it's an amazing, amazing space to be in.
Absolutely. Do you think that there are any kind of key things that people need to have or skill sets that they need to have before joining SFM? Or do you think they can come in completely new to it all and pick it up as they go along?
Wow. Great question. I think for me, more than anything, is how you choose to show up, your attitude. If you're not willing to find 1 hour a day, 1 to 2 hours a day, 4 or 5 times a week,
it's not going to happen.
It's not the space for you. It's not a quick learning curve. And that might not sound like a lot, like an hour a day. You might say, well, I can't learn that much in an hour a day. You actually can. If you can do that 5 times a week, that's 5 hours a week. That's 20 hours a month. We're from Ireland and UK. That's a typical job in Ireland is a 40-hour working week, and everything over that is overtime. That is half of a full-time job that you made just by getting up 1 hour early. So to me, choosing how you show up, say, well, I'm not sure if I have the time. You can find the time if it's important enough to you. And that's not being disrespectful to, we all have busy lives and full-time jobs and sometimes 2 jobs and kids and school runs and so many commitments. But for me, it was just getting up an hour earlier. I just made it really easy for myself. And I said, well, I'm just going to get up an hour earlier. So I think really most importantly is choosing, deciding how you're going to choose to show up. Are you going to half-heartedly do this? Or are you going to go all in? If you're half-heartedly going to do it, it's probably best not to, because it's just not going to work. But if you're determined to hit your end goals, which you absolutely can, then this is absolutely the space for you to do that. So I went a little bit off question with that, but related.
Well, Well, I think it leads nicely into what I was going to ask you next, Leo. You know, to what would you attribute your continued growth and success so far?
Uh, a belief in the process. You know, I'm still very much of the mindset that I'm paying my dues, because I came from a hospitality background where, you know, things are very fast paced. You make decisions, things get done, things change, because that's the environment you work in. You know, on a cruise ship, you got 4,000 or 5,000 guests coming on every week. You got to make decisions quickly and things get done quickly. The online world, I've learned, and now I use to my benefit, because you're planting seeds, you're building relationships, you're nurturing those relationships, and based on that, that's when your company starts growing. It's not about having to learn how to sell things. It's learning how to create relationships, connecting with people, offering service to people. And there's a huge market for that in the online world. And as you get into the journey through the SFM, you find where your space is in there. Generally, people don't come in all the answers. It's because of the journey they go on and say, this is the space that I want to be in. And it's usually something that you're very passionate about, and you build a business model based around that. You know, to me, it was an acceptance that I needed to put my time in. I needed to show up every day, learn the digital skills. I would say I probably work harder now than I did when I was learning the digital skills, but I do that because I want to, not because I have to. I do it because I want to. I mean, it's growing. I get to see my company growing now. I mean, it's ridiculous in months. I mean, you know, I talk about traditional bricks and mortar companies. You're going to spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands setting it up. You're going to have to deal with staffing, with you know, stock if you're running a retail store, shipping, HR stuff, legal stuff, accounting. I'm a solopreneur. I run my company with the help of Peggy. You can just cut out all the complications. So the benefits are, there's so many of them. And if you can, and so that's why I have no problem working hard, or not even working harder, working more now than I did, because I started seeing the benefits of my work really, really quickly. And that only encourages you. It's like, okay, I can do this. So now I'm going to grow it and nurture it and grow it some more. For me, most of the things that I hope to get from creating an online company, I'm already feeling them, because it's changed my life. It changed how I feel when I wake up in the morning. The financial success, it's growing every week. It's not where I want it to be, but it's absolutely in the direction of heading there. So it's a case of just continually, gradually growing and growing and growing. But it's you know, it's an amazing space to be in.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you know, what do you love most about what you do? Is there any particular thing that you love most about it?
I think for me, I was exposed to some teaching before when I was back in the corporate world. We were hiring, the company, the cruise line were growing really quickly. And we were hiring a lot of staff from Asia, because we were putting ships in Asia. And we set up offices in Manila. And so I actually lived in Manila for about a year and a half. And we were hiring hundreds of staff, and we put together this training program. So I actually was based down there. So I was quite heavily involved in the hiring and also the teaching. And that was something new for me. I'd never experienced teaching, and I absolutely loved it. That equates to what I do now, because a typical day for me now, I'll spend about 2 to 3 hours a day coaching new members on digital skills. In the same way that Susan brought you into this, when hopefully you get to the point of making that step to join, Susan is going to be your referral partner. And with that, you get so much support where, you know, you'd be jumping onto calls like this and being able to be coached by somebody who's gone through exactly what you were going through. That's without a doubt the most joy that I get, is that impacting someone's life, helping them on their journey, because I appreciate how much it has changed my life. And you do feel a sense of responsibility to help the next person to do exactly the same. You know, I'm a little bit biased because we're great friends, but you will be in amazing hands with Susan, having Susan as your referral partner, because she just exudes kindness and caring, and so you'd be very lucky to have her in your corner. So
Thank you for saying that, Leo. Appreciate that. One last thing. I've got another wee thing I want to sneak in at the end, but just before I get to that, you have some phrases that you use quite a lot that, you know, I just love, and I would love you to just expand on them a wee bit for us if you can. And they are, you lean into your fears, you trust the process, and you plug into the system.
love it.
Would you like to share a wee bit about what you mean by those? I mean, I know it's quite obvious, but they obviously
Absolutely.
mean something to you.
And they are barred because I did learn them on the journey. Susan, just to check, are we still recording? I don't see it showing on mine. Is it showing in yours?
Yeah.
It is. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry, I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
They are, you know, I've learned those on this journey. And it's one that I used. I just keep them close to me, that the only way to fail is to quit. And, you know, that's one of the things that I've learned, that just your determination, you know, that if you keep that mindset, it's impossible to fail, because you're just going to keep doing what you need to do. That's one that I've learned. Leaning into your fears has been big for me. I was scared to get back into social media, which I had to embrace. Obviously, being running an online company and your marketing platform, I had stopped using social media about 7 years ago. I found it was becoming quite negative. I saw a lot of bullying. I saw people self-gratification, you know, look at me, and it just wasn't a space I wanted to spend any more time in. I had to lean into that fear because I knew I needed to for my online business. Now that I recognized and did that, it's a space I'm just loving being in, that online space, because within the SFM we have our own. It's called a tribe, the SFM tribe, and it's full of just thousands of like-minded people, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people who want to make change in their life, and just full of so much support, inspiration, motivation. So I'm now embracing social media in a way that I never did before. I never saw a platform like this ever. My chosen platform for marketing is YouTube. It's not for everyone. You don't have to. But I had to embrace that because I was like, hell no, I'm not making videos. But I figured it out. Found the platform to learn how to do that, which incidentally, even your marketing platform, you're going to get hands-on training how to you know, advertise on that platform. So yeah, recognizing those fears and leaning into them was something I embraced, and I hadn't really done that before, because typically if you fear something, you pull away from it. Because of this community you enter into, and because of the support structure you have, you know, from the day you enter the SFM, you're going to be assigned an SFM consultant who's a mentor to help coach and guide you. You're going to have your referral partner, which will be Susan, who's gone through exactly what you're going to be going through and can help hugely. And then you're going to be exposed to this amazing community of like-minded people that we've become and made lots of other friends through it. So this is the best environment you could possibly imagine to face your fears and lean into them, and because you've got such a supportive structure underneath you. Trust in the process. I had to put myself in check on that one. So when I started, I thought, you know, I've been in the corporate world for quite a while. Some of this stuff I'm going to know it. Thankfully, I gave myself a mental stop check and said, I need to give this space that I've come into the respect that it deserves. The SFM have been doing this for well over a decade. They know what they're doing. So I had to put that aside and to completely trust in the process. And that was game changing for me, because I took it at a pace, I absorbed everything. And that's all about building the foundation of your company. Before you even launch your company or your website or your marketing, you're building a foundation. And by trusting in the process, that's going to make that foundation the strongest it can be. So definitely trusting in the system was big for me. Did I miss one, Susan? The third
No,
one?
no, no, I think you've covered everything there, Leo. There was the trust the process and plug into the system. And actually, you know, with what you've said there, you've pretty much covered that, I would say. Yeah. I think there's just one more thing I would like to ask you.
Sure.
You get any secrets or tips that you think you could share with us?
Wow.
Wow. Anything at all?
Something that I kind of mentally, I put a system in place early into this. So I figured there's going to be a couple of bumps in the road on this because, you know, it's a whole new skill set you learn. For me in particular, I was nervous about the website design. I'd never built a website before. Be able to do it. Honestly, what I can say now, if you can jump on a Zoom call and if you can open an email, you can absolutely do this.
Yeah.
The rest is all broken down into bite-sized pieces. It's drag and drop. It absolutely does work, but it's only until you get in there and see it that you say, now I get it. For me, I kind of did a bit of reverse engineering. I figured there's going to be, the thing is, if it was as easy, everyone would do it and everyone would just launch the business, crush it, and make that six-figure salary or whatever it is you choose that you'd like to make. If it was that easy, everyone would be leaving their traditional jobs and going into the online world. There's different reasons why people don't. But to me, it was an understanding that there are going to be times where I'm going to get frustrated. And when that time comes, that it means that I'm getting one step closer to where I need to get to, my goal. Because if it was that easy, everyone would do it. And it was an acceptance. And what was interesting about that was that when those times came, and they do, but the thing is, you have this massive support structure around you. Like they have IT specialists, you have your SFM consultant. So when those bumps in the road, and that's all it was a bump in the road, when it happened, because I knew it was coming, I accepted that it was coming, it wasn't that big a deal. And then a case of finding where to get the answer, fixing it, moving on, and looking back and saying, actually, that wasn't so bad. Yeah. And you know, if I'd one golden nugget, I guess the secret, it's to have a similar mindset because you're learning something new. As with anything new, you don't just knock it out of the park right from day one. You know, that's what separates who this is for and who's not going to see it through. And that one thing can be the difference between pushing through, reaching out, finding the answer, and not. And I'm here to say, and Susan, we're living proof that
absolutely.
If put in the work to learn, you can push through whatever obstacles come in your way, and actually you can launch your company really, really quickly by following the process. So.
Absolutely. I can't say thank you enough, Leo, for everything that you've shared with us. This has been absolutely phenomenal, actually. There's just absolute gold all the way through that. So I really, really appreciate you giving up your time to share this with me. Thank you.
Yes, so I've enjoyed so much coming on. I mean, I feel honored to be in this space with you know, people that you brought in that are thinking about, you know, on the fence maybe and what the next steps are. I would be, you know, I'd be thrilled to be welcoming you in through Susan as well. So come hang out with us. It's a great space to be in. You will not regret it. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you.